Rockinitis.
I wanna go to heaven, but I've been told the Rockinitis has got my soul. Been rocking and rolling till the break of dawn. Man, I wonder if my baby is still at home. Wonder if my baby is still at home.
Riders on the storm, riders on the storm. Into this house we're born, into this world we're thrown. Like a dog without a bone.
Hi, cats and kittens. Welcome to Rockinitis. My name is Michael Willmore. And this time out on this episode of Rockinitis, we're going to be entering the dark side of rock and roll. And my special guest here is Pete Bowman, who is in a group that does a bit of a Doors revival called the Unknown Soldiers.
Yep, that's correct.
Now, how long have you been doing this, and how did the group first come together?
Well, it's been probably about 5.5 years, and originally it was a group from Saskatchewan called the Ghost Town Drive, and they decided they wanted to move west and start a musical career, but unfortunately, you know, it's a little bit of a tough go for them, so they decided the lead singer had a Morrison-esque type vibe and sound. So they decided to put on a tribute act of the Doors.
Okay.
And the lead singer decided to move back to Saskatchewan. And as a result, they put out an ad for a singer to sing the Doors catalog.
Oh, so you hadn't actually connected with the group until that time?
That's correct, yeah.
Huh.
So I'm the second singer of the Unknown Soldiers.
Okay.
But as
Now,
a
have
result,
you always been, how did you get into the Doors initially?
I wasn't really into them until maybe '94.
Okay.
I was done with the university, decided to move back to Vancouver to get into music, and I read No One Gets Out of Here Alive.
Right, that's this, where I've got it right here somewhere, yes.
Some people
That's
refer
this
to
book
it as
right
nothing
here.
in here but lies, but you know, that's debatable.
Well, it's actually, it's a good book, but it plays up the sort of sensationalistic aspects.
Yeah, the more sort of Jimbo.
Yeah, the
you know,
sordid,
clown. Yeah.
and the focus is definitely Jim Morrison. And a lot of it is a little over the top, so you kind of, it doesn't ring true 100% of the time, maybe 75% of the time.
It sort of skims the top of what this person might have been like. However, there's a lot of other books out there, and you know, his poetry, his words, his songs, the musical catalog they were able to create in such a short period of time. Really, this book doesn't really illustrate that person's other side,
Right.
the creative side, the part with the fire. It's more the you know, nihilistic Nietzschean side, the part that wanted to destroy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they play up certain aspects and downplay other aspects. Like, the man was a phenomenal artiste, and he basically put a whole new realm on the table of rock and roll.
Yeah, they were the granddaddies of heavy metal to a certain degree.
In a way, yeah.
Iggy Pop saw a Doors show and decided, I want to get into rock and roll.
That's right.
And, Alice Cooper, same thing.
Yes.
So they sort of took music at that time was really lollipoppy, Beatles, a lot of happiness, and I think that they were the other side of that. And I think Jim Morrison said that they were the band you love to hate, and the band that the Squares hate. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I saw the Doors live 3 times with Jim Morrison, the original lineup and everything. And the first time I saw them at the Retinal Circus, they only had one single out in Canada at the time, which was Light My Fire, which was the short version. Now, I didn't really like the singer's voice that much from what I heard on the radio, because I remember saying, he sounds like he's got a cold. But I really like the organ part.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose.
So anyway, we went to see him, and I was like totally blown away because I wasn't expecting much. And instead I realized this was a phenomenon.
Well, what made you blown away?
His performance.
Oh, yeah.
He was absolutely phenomenal. In those days, he was a club performer, so he was used to performing up close. So he did a performance that was for for 10 or 15 feet away people. So he did a lot of very intimate, highly sexual stuff.
Like gyrating on the mic?
Well, what he do? He would take the mic, and he would rub the stand back and forth across his body, and it seemed to be having an effect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like he was definitely getting aroused and worked up, and it was like extremely sexual.
Well, ritual, extremely ritual.
Yes.
And his gig was to play the Dionysian character, whereas Ray was the Apollo, the good guy, the bookmaster, the Wizard of Oz, and he was the half goat, half man. He even got his image, I read in a book that he got his image from somebody in the Velvet Underground. The whole leather pant, conch shell belt.
Oh, well, actually, I heard that when he met Gene Vincent at the Toronto Pop Festival, Gene Vincent was dressed totally in leather as the act that he developed in England.
Right.
And Jim Morrison kept saying over and over, you and I are so alike, Gene. So I got the impression he did a lot of that mic stand stuff and a lot in the leather outfit. I got from Gene. I think
Gene Vincent was very emotional.
Yes.
When he really, you knew the guy was in pain when he was singing.
Yes.
Yeah. So Frank Sinatra too was a big influence. Elvis as well.
On Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
Okay.
And you can hear that in a lot of his vocal undertones.
Well, I hear him if you haven't listened to him for a while, and then you pull out a Doors album and listen to it, and you kind of go, actually, Jim Morrison is actually kind of a crooner.
He is.
He's got this resonant baritone, but because he's exploring the dark side of rock and roll, he's kind of like a Bing Crosby from hell.
Yeah, that's true. Or a big brother telling ghost stories.
face in my mind. I can see your face in my mind. Carnival dogs unseen the light. Can see your face in my mind.
I think that that's how they really got the show on the road, is to be able to create that ritual in a small, like that intense sort of energy in a small place, and it really allowed, you know, for the audience to get encapsulated by that vibe.
Yes.
You know, shamanistic vibe.
Now, when I asked you to be on the show, I was saying, what songs do you want to play? And the very first song that came to mind to you when I was talking to you was, you said Not to Touch the Earth.
Yeah.
Which kind of surprised me, because the Doors' third album, Waiting for the Sun, this album here, that's one of the featured songs on it. But I never really saw that as a strong Doors song. But listening to it again, and then seeing your group perform this tune, a lot of the stuff that was secondary material at the time that I didn't pay a lot of attention to at the time, nowadays it really sounds phenomenal.
Well,
because it was overlooked at the time.
Yeah, they hook you in with the Love Me Two Times and Light My Fire, Break On Through, but then, you know, it's almost like all teenagers that really get into the Doors have this period, a Doors period, where they start smoking marijuana, they, you know, close the shades, they become really sort of immersed in their cave. And they put on the Doors, and they start to hear these other songs that really speak to them. And for Jim Morrison, I think the most important thing from what I've recollected from what people have told me or what I've read is that the words were very important to him.
Oh, yeah.
And so this song, Not to Touch the Earth, was a part of a smigget of a celebration of the lizard, I believe it was.
Okay.
It's a big epic poem, and he really wanted to sort of get into this epic poem stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the Survive in Peace. And it talks a lot about like interesting issues like dead presidents and snakes and outlaws, and it's just essentially, I think it's the pinnacle of his demise. That's when he collapsed. And then he became Blues Jim.
Yes. That's
so it's and at the end of the song it says, "I am the Lizard King. I can do anything," and that must have just scared the living whatever out of the authorities.
Well, he was bigger than life, that's for sure.
For sure, it must have scared them.
Okay, so let's listen to this great tune by the Doors, Not to Touch the Earth, on the Elektra record label, 1968. So give me the vibes. Be in the vibes.
House upon the hill, moon is lying still, shadows of the trees, witnessing the wild breeze. Come on, baby, run with me. Let's run, run with me, run with me, run with me. Let's run. The mansion is warm at the top of the hill. Rich are the rooms and the comforts there. Red are the...
Okay, that's the Doors with a track that was not particularly well known by them at the time, a track called Not to Touch the Earth. And the interesting thing about the album cover, this photo was actually taken about 7 o'clock at night, and so they were actually waiting for the sun to go down rather than waiting for the sun to come up. With the title of the album, Waiting for the Sun, makes it seem like it's about 6 in the morning or something, and they're waiting for the sun to come up, but actually they're waiting for it to go down. And the song Waiting for the Sun, even though it's the title of this third album, it got left off the album, and it didn't come out until Morrison Hotel album in 1970.
Yeah.
And I think it should have been on this album, I think.
for the sun, waiting for the sun, waiting for the sun. Can't you feel it now that spring has come, that it's time to live in the scattered sun? Waiting for the sun, waiting for the sun, waiting for the sun, waiting for the sun.
Well, I went to see you. I've seen you live 3 times now, and I got to say, each time I've seen your group, they've been even more impressive than the previous time. And the last time I saw you, I went with my friend Eddie, and he's not easily impressed. And he was very impressed with seeing you guys, and said, you know, the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up.
All right, let's have some fun.
Hey, don't be afraid. Come on up. Come on up. Don't be afraid, man. We don't bite. And if we do, it's pleasurable. I've lived uptown. I've lived downtown. I've lived all around, yeah. I've had money, yeah. I had none. I've had money, yeah. I had none. But I never been so broke that I couldn't leave town. I'm a changeling, see me change. I'm a changeling, see me change. I'm the air that you breathe that you eat, people you greet on the swarming street. You gotta see me change. See me change. I've lived uptown. I've lived downtown. I've lived all around, yeah. I've had money, and I had none. I've had money, and I had none. But I never been so broke that I couldn't leave town.
when we were watching the show, my friend Ed, you know, he was like extremely impressed and said, why are these guys hanging around Vancouver? Why are they just playing Vancouver? They're too good for Vancouver. He said they could move to Las Vegas and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, you guys are that good.
What we would prefer to do, because we're not really into the impersonating thing.
No, because it's
yeah,
organic.
Where you put on the leather pants and you know, it's just, to me, it's contrived. Rather, what we like to do is to study the music and then recreate it on the stage so that you can feel the same vibe and intensity that perhaps an original Doors show had.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing that that you know we're able to tap into too is my voice is very similar to Jim Morrison's.
I'll say.
As a result, it can encapsulate, and it's like the first time I heard the Beatles live, you know, through a tribute act, and it was very exciting to hear the nuances, the music, you know, bashing off of the back of the club, and so on and so forth. And then people, you know, just sort of losing. There's this thing that happens where they come in, and for 3 songs they just kind of sit there and judge and look and go, okay, and then they can relax and they can just enjoy it for what it is, and it's just a recreation of the Doors music.
Well, I feel when you perform, I feel an escalation, and I get wound up in it, like everyone else. I mean, that place was a very close club, and it became like a sweat box. And you sweated, I swear, a quart.
Yeah.
I mean, you were soaked.
That was one of my sweat shows.
Your shirt
Yeah.
was just absolutely soaked.
Yeah, that was strange.
And all the people that were in close proximity to me, and we were all like packed into the dance floor like sardines, and we're all watching you, and everybody around me was sweating like pigs. And it was like, some of those people are really stinky, but it was worth enduring.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a real organic experience.
And that's exactly what it's about, is that the music triggers that off.
Yes.
Triggers off that vibe, and you can actually smell people's pheromones in the air, and in the Doors music. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's like
when you're performing, though,
pit.
Miss Maggie McGill, she lived on a hill. Her daddy got drunk and left in the will, so she went down to Tansy Town. People down there really like to get it on.
I saw the original Doors live 3 times, and you guys are, you know, right there.
Well, that's it. I mean, you want the audience to be the show. You know, when we're performing the music, it's already been created. The homework's already been done. Thank you, Raymond Zurich, Robbie Kruger, John Densmore, and Jim Morrison, and Paul Rothschild, the Fifth Door. You know, the producer.
Yes.
He really gave them. You heard the demo.
Yes.
And then he took that and created the Doors.
Yes.
So he's really got to be totally credited for making the Doors sound.
I agree.
Love me one
what we're doing is we're bringing the music to them, we're bringing the muse to them. You know, just like the Doors did back in the 60s.
Great.
We're just carrying on their message.
Okay, I wish you the best of luck, and
Okay,
thanks
well, thank you so
very
much.
much for being here.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Michael Willmore. My guest was Pete Bowman. Thanks very much for viewing.
Rockinitis.
Oh, baby, baby, when I heard that beat, the Rockinitis just moved my feet. Yeah. To see what's wrong. He said, son, you've been rocking much too long. Oh, doctor, doctor, tell me what to do. He said, don't stop rocking, son, till you are through. He said, doctor, doctor, what's the matter with me? He said the Rockinitis won't let you be.